Y'all, in today's video, we're going to continue going over a lot of those juicy bombshells, which have the Australian media absolutely going crazy, as well as us over here. Now, if you've been following the case along with here or wherever, you know that like over in Australia, they have to suppress a lot of stuff that could jeopardize the defendant's right to a fair trial, etc., etc. So over here, obviously in the US, is a little bit different. We're just throwing all of our dirty laundry out there in the beginning. So that being said, we're going to go over some of that dirty laundry today that we haven't learned yet in this video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey, hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. Now the first article and information we're going to go over is some information that did not make it to trial, which was major to me, okay? So this is based on Guy Adams' article, The Shocking Secret About Mushroom Killer That Is Being Kept from Australia, and it appeared in the Daily Mail July 7th, 2025. Okay, so Simon, Erin's estranged husband. So as this is leading up during pre-trial testimony, all that kind of stuff, back in 2024, when he spoke to the Supreme Court of Victoria, he didn't hold back, okay? He had a whole bunch of stuff to say. Now, here's the thing. So back in like 2021, I think this began, okay? A couple of years prior to the actual lethal luncheon. This is when Erin began literally, I don't know if it was a lifelong mission or what, but trying to end his life, okay? Now, she made several attempts via poison to try and take him out. Now, in this case, she wasn't using beef Wellingtons and whatnot. It was a variety of things we're going to talk about, okay? So during his testimony, Simon, told these stories about all these different incidents. Now, here is the thing. You're literally going to need to buckle up for this because when we read it over the live chat, we were all like, what? So let's go ahead and talk about the first poisoning attempt. Now, this is in November of 2021. So days before they were supposed to leave on like a little family trip or whatever, Erin makes up some penne pasta, some bolognese, and makes a cute little meal, right? Well, the following morning, Simon starts to get sick. He's throwing up, all this type of stuff. And this continues. Like, this isn't like oh, I'm nervous about the trip. This is like, I'm sick, right? Now, eventually, he ends up getting admitted to the hospital. And even in this point, like, the doctors are starting to get concerned. Like, his creatine levels were getting really high. They were showing like, I think like, possible kidney failure. So after 5 days on a drip, he finally stabilized and he was discharged. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, May 2022. Now, again, this is like another situation of leading up to a little bit of a trip. I'm not sure why she likes to do that, but I think it's fascinating. So Erin's like, Simon, I want you to do like a little taste test on the spice levels and this curry that she was planning to take on vacation or whatever. So she's like, give it a try, give it a try. So she gives Simon a little bit of this dish. Okay, he starts to get sick within hours, right? He ends up being taken to a hospital in a nearby town. Now, he would get discharged, but then he ends up like collapsing after going back home. He's taken back to the hospital. Surgeons performed 3 life-saving operations. They took a large portion of his bowel out. Now, he was in a coma for 16 days during this. He stayed in intensive care for 3 weeks. Now, on 2 separate occasions, it was so serious, like the family was called in to say their goodbyes. Like the doctor was like, this is it, right? But he pulled through. Does this sound familiar, right? Well, guess what? That ain't the last attempt, right? We're going up to July 2022. So about 3 weeks after he recuperates, Erin makes up a little beef stew. Again, he gets sick. Again, he goes to a very brief hospitalization this time, right? But nonetheless, attempt number 4, September 2022. Notice what I'm saying. These aren't years apart, okay? This is like very close together, right? Even if it was just one attempt at poisoning thing, right? It's one too many, okay? Like we can safely say that. But you would think someone who was doing this would do them way farther apart and not like 4 or 5 1 year. So September 2022, she makes up some kind of like a chicken wrap or something like that. He eats it, he starts getting sick, he vomits, he loses muscle functions, and at one point, like allegedly it was like he could only move like his neck, his tongue, his lips. It was bad. He ends up going back to the hospital. Okay, so he survives that, obviously, right? Now fast forward a few months, but February 2023, Erin gives Simon a batch of cookies. Now allegedly it was like under the presumption that the daughter had made these cookies, and so then over the next few days Erin keeps messaging Simon to ask whether like he ate these cookies or not, right? And then finally he's sitting here and he's like, why is she so extremely interested in if I ate these cookies? So he ends up being like, you know what, I'm gonna throw them out. Okay, now the author of this article, Guy Adams, he would end up making a spreadsheet with like the detailed times and dates and all that of the illnesses. Okay, so in his article, Guy says, I'm going to quote him here, this table revealed an intriguing fact. Each coincided with occasions when he'd been fed something unusual by Erin, end quote. Now, also to boot, Simon would even tell his doctor that he was like, you know what, I'm kind of afraid that, you know, my food's getting poisoned with like antifreeze or something like that, okay? Now, he starts like looking through everything, Simon, and he starts seeing like, wait a second, these symptoms are lining up with the consistency of like, you know, say rat poison or hemlock, something like that, right? So you already know there's like that going off. Now, the September 2022 incident, Simon would tell all these thoughts, okay, like after this, you know, about the poisonings and all this type of stuff to his doctor. Then he decided that he would have minimal and only like necessary contact with Erin. Now, around this time is when he would actually talk to his father about his suspicions and be like, this ain't good, right? Now, Don would ask Simon to be discreet about this, and I'm going to quote the article and obviously Don here, not share the concerns too widely as not to create issues in the way people related with Erin and our family. Now, here's the other huge thing. So remember, Don is the victim. When after he got sick with the beef Wellington, he was, and I'm going to quote the article again here, so convinced Erin had sabotaged the lunch that he took a container filled with his own vomit to the hospital. He gave it to medical personnel, telling them it needed to be handed to the police because he presumed this could be significant evidence of a deliberate poisoning, end quote. And then that's the reason that the homicide squad like comes in and starts investigating Erin Patterson. Now, here's the thing with this. So Justice Bill said that that information could not be presented at the trial. It was basically like, you know what, based on these allegations and whatnot, Erin needs to face two separate trials. Now, obviously, as we know at this point, that the attempted murder charges involving Simon were all, you know, tossed out or whatever, right? Now, here's another major bombshell. Okay, in Guy Adams' article that we're referencing, he also shared this. So one of the seized devices had, and I'm going to quote him, accessed a document titled, A Case Study, What Doses of Amanita, Phthalioids, and Amatoxins Are Lethal to Humans. The defense told Justice Bill that her laptop might have somehow automatically downloaded the document, to which he agreed. End quote. Y'all, okay, now this is like the stuff that oftentimes we will learn here in like the United States trials that we watch and stuff like that, because we see these, sometimes we see these depending on it's federal, whatever, but we see this information taking place beforehand, right? So this to me right here is bombshell information. Imagine if the jury knew that, please, right? So you know right off the bat. Now, before we add up a couple of things, let's very quickly talk about Dr. Webster. Now, I did a separate video on this because it deserved its own video, so you can reference that video depending on when you see this one or whatever. Dr. Webster is the guy who saw Erin at the hospital. He's the one who placed the 000 phone call. He's the one who in his interviews was like, look, you know, when she came in and basically said that this wasn't some kind of accident, like that she forged the wrong things and and that, you know, this happened and that happened, he was like, nope, she's guilty, she's this, I don't trust her, all this type of stuff. Okay, so take all that information, right, and then combine the other stuff that we now know of, like Don coming in and saying, here's my vomit, I think I've been deliberately poisoned, this could be evidence. Okay, and then Erin coming in with all this. So you see from the behind the scenes pictures of medical staff, and as the dots were all connected, where it was like, whoa, okay, so they had to be like, do not let her leave, oh my gosh, she has absolutely just done something bone-chillingly horrible. Now let's talk about a different article and some of the information in that as well. Now, this is based on an ABC article entitled "Who is Erin Patterson?" the host of Australia's infamous mushroom lunch. It was written by Elsie Kinsella and staff. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting about this article is how it talks about Erin's past careers, I guess you could say. So let's just talk about a few of those. So Kinsella goes over all these different faces of careers that Erin did, right? And I'm going to quote her. She says, "There's the Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals worker who found love in a Melbourne counseling building. There's the air traffic controller whose behavior is mocked by some of her colleagues, the one-time bookstore owner in rural Western Australia, the wannabe nurse, and the mushroom forager. And then there's Erin Patterson, the star of the courtroom," end quote. Now, I do think this is interesting because, again, I've said 100 times over, many of you too, y'all, it's the real life Kathy Bates. Not only does she look like it, I mean, so many similarities, right, of just the many different lives lived. It's like Stephen King predicted this character, right, and how many more are out there, right? So the article also talks about that air traffic controller test, right, how hard it was, and Erin passed it, successfully completed the training program, everything. Now, this was confirmed by ABC, and the article would also go into talking to several of her colleagues and some of the stories that they had. Now, I'll quote some here, and the author Kinsella writes, "Some recall her as a solitary young woman, an odd loner, while others remember someone who was abrupt and abrasive," end quote. Another said, begin quote, "She was crafty and clever, but not as clever as she thinks, but she is no dope," end quote. The writer also talks about how, in the colleagues, the training group, all this, how they became very close, but however, Erin was the only one who would decline going to the social events and things of that nature. Now, the group also joked around and supported each other, but Erin didn't join in any camaraderie according to other people. And she also had a couple of nicknames like Crazy Erin or Scudder the Nutter or things like this. Now, the writer also goes into how another colleague would recall a more hostile version of Erin, and I'm going to quote her, saying, "She was quite aggressive in the way that she spoke to people," end quote. Now, the author also talks about how the group recalls a feeling of tension and uncertainty about how she would act. Another said, and I'm going to quote them again, "She wasn't necessarily always unpleasant to be around, but people were wary that she could snap or say something unpleasant at the drop of a hat," end quote. Now, there's a Woman Day article from November 2023 where one of her former colleagues said this about her: "She was rated in the field and was actually responsible for running airspace for a while. She's much brighter than people think," end quote. Now, there's another ex-colleague who would also say this, which is kind of weird. I'm going to quote them. "Erin would call into the air traffic control center pretending to be another worker and say they were sick. Some of us thought it was part of a plan Erin had to pick up lucrative shifts covering the sick leave of others," end quote. And then they even talked about seeing Erin kind of laughing in the corner when one of the colleagues who she had called out for sick or whatever showed up, and they're like, "Why are you here?" Think about that. Let's pause for a second and do some sofa speculation and sofa psychology. Think about, number one, if you look at the psychology of poisoners, do I know that? No, but I'm just saying, what we've kind of seen in these cases we watch where they seem to enjoy watching the victim. There's some kind of thing like that. Think of these, what do you call them, the dark angels or whatever, the nurses and doctors who kill people. Now, that right there that they just said of calling out sick and then kind of laughing and watching someone under pressure, that whole scenario, that makes me nervous to think oh my God, what, why would you do that? But getting pleasure out of a situation and seeing someone uncomfortable like that, it's almost like I did my crime and I'm getting to watch it. So then fast forward to the poisonings, right? It all just kind of adds up. Now, also the part where we're hearing from, colleagues and yes, she didn't join in, she didn't do this, she didn't do that. That part to me is very fascinating on many levels. She just seems to have this kind of antisocial personality, which I guess when you start looking at the perceived things, because we don't truly know what makes her tick, we don't truly know what we can believe from her, but the perceived, I'm being left or I'm being lost or I'm being laughed at, and so I'm going to get back, I'm going to get revenge, I'm going to poison you all, I'm going to control your life. Okay, so that's enough of the tea for this video. I was gonna say for this week, but for this video, because my goodness, it keeps coming out, right? So let me know what you think down in the comment section below as usual. And number one, what do you think about the attempted poisonings or attempted murders on Simon? That part had me shook, okay? I was like, what? I'm just like, yeah, if the jury knew that, I mean, I can understand where these cases are frustrating sometimes because it's like you want to isolate down to the current crime, right? But when you know that the defendant has done like all this other horrible stuff or even already murdered people and stuff like that, but the jury can't know that. Imagine being a jury and walking out of a room and being like, oh, we did the right thing. And it's like, honey, they've killed 10 people before this and got away with it. You see what I'm saying? Like that kind of a thing. So mind you, the jury did, I mean, they saw right through this, right? That being said, you know, it just makes me think of that. And then when you get into the whole thing of like her past lives and, you know, past lives meaning, you know, her careers and things of this nature and whatnot, I don't think any of us will ever know who Erin truly is, right? Because also, I don't think Erin knows who she is. I think that she seems to operate from some kind of like emotional travesty to emotional travesty. You know, and again, I think that that's why this crime is so messy. I don't doubt that on some levels, Erin has to be highly intelligent. I mean, to do the air traffic controller thing and some of the stuff she's pulled off, you have to be swift. And so I think when you look at the concept of the crime that she was doing, it was like, oh, yeah, I've got this plan, but it just fell apart. Now, I also think because she got the confidence up with Simon. Now, mind you, she was not successful in killing him, and whether she truly wanted to at that point, who knows? Again, we'll never know. I would assume so by how much, you know, how sick off he got and how close together the poisonings were, but she just didn't seem to be that successful with it. And maybe that's why she finally was like, I'm going to take care of this once and for all, and I'm going for the wham bam, thank you ma'am. We're going to do death cap mushrooms. Like that, I know will kill them. Right? Like this old stuff she did, she's like, I can't get this stuff right, or I can't do this. But it's enough for Simon to say all those things to family members, you know, et cetera, and for Don to then be like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, come on, right? This is serious. So if you could, please drop off some little sofas and maybe some little weird pillows down in the comment section below for myself, Roscoe and Spirit. Well, you can't see him. There he is. Bo and Luke and you, the Sofa Squad. So we'll have a place to sit and hang out and talk about Erin and Tiffany and Jody and all the crazy people we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we gather down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.